Okay, so apologies for the slight interruption to our regular service there. We are back ready to discuss this afternoon's 2-2 draw with Newcastle. West Ham have had a good week. We've taken 4 points for the last two games against Chelsea and Newcastle, a result that can't be sneezed at, really. West Ham have moved away from the relegation zone as a result, and almost to lower mid-table obscurity, I guess, in a way. Rio, I shall come to you first, my friend. Your verdict on this afternoon and the last 7 days in general, please.
Yeah, a point away from home, a difficult place to normally go to, is never a negative. We played well. We switched off a couple of times, which cost us, especially for the first goal that they scored. But we've got a point. We can point at fine margins. I know Pinky wasn't happy with Fornells and his lack of awareness tracking back for the offside decision for the second goal. But that's the reason is that West Ham are not playing at a high level, you know. It's fine margins, but in our position, that point is a really good point. The whole week has been a massive plus. We wouldn't have never expected to get 3 points against Chelsea Wednesday, but a really energetic and workmanlike performance got us through over the end. And today was pretty much similar, you know. We there was plenty of endeavour, plenty of work rate in the end. There's moments we switched off, but 4 points in space of a week, 2 games, we would have taken that last week. Probably the reverse, but yeah, we would have taken that.
Excellent. Thank you, Rio, for your assessment. Pinky, would you agree with Rio? We would have taken the 4 points if offered that this time last week. And should we be happy that, we're unbeaten, aren't we, in 7 days?
Oh, listen, all day long you take 4 points from any 2 games. You know, whether it's Chelsea and Newcastle or Watford and Villa. You know, home and away, you pick up 4 points, you take them, and you'd be happy with those. And David Moyes, I'm sure, will be sitting there tonight thinking, it's a little bit better.
Yeah.
Having said that, things that concern me today. If that was a goalkeeper making the error, the lapse of concentration that Fornells does, he does it three games running, he gets run out of the club. Yeah. And basically publicly ridiculed. And I'm not suggesting we go down that path with Fornells, but the manager does need to have a word with them and say, in this division, you concentrate every minute of every game. If his concentration's that bad at his age, his missus is going to hate him when he gets to 50. And it's one of those, situations whereby he's cost us and he needs to be made aware he's cost us so he doesn't do it again. Equally, Manuel Lanzini today, he's cost us because he's contributed nothing.
Yeah.
What has he contributed positively to us today? It's all well and good putting on the number 10 shirt, but you've got to earn the right to keep that. And, you've got to do something. And maybe I've missed it. I'll watch the game again later. But for me, he's not doing enough to hold down his place in the team at the minute.
Yep.
Other side of the coin, Souček is looking to be a good bit of business at this point in time. Yeah, I know I'm playing the Fellaini card quite strongly here, but be in no doubt, that's the role he's playing. And he's having a significant impact on our side, and one hopes that somehow we can hang on to Declan Rice somehow, even for just another season, and have Souček and Rice as that double pivot at just in front of the back four. And if we can do that for another year, then we might be able to start building something.
Excellent. Very good summary. Thank you, Pinky. We took the lead in the 4th minute, a goal from Antonio before Almiron equalised for Newcastle in the 17th minute. 65 minutes on the clock, and Souček popped up to put us 2-1 ahead. His second goal, or as Noam pointed out during the live stream, his 3rd goal in the last 7 days, although only 2 counted. Unfortunately for us, within 90 seconds, and largely due to, as Pinky has rightly pointed out, Fornell's entirely switching off and forgetting where he was, Newcastle equalised through West Ham boyhood supporter John Joe Shelvey, once again scoring against us. I think the only decent thing, really, or the only positive from that, is that Andy Carroll didn't score, which we kind of all predicted. But all in all, it's another point. It's 2 games unbeaten. It's another step away from the relegation zone. Noam, your post-match thoughts on what you've seen this afternoon, please?
Yeah, lots of positives. I guess this afternoon was living proof of what a confidence booster can do for you. Beating Chelsea at any stage, apart from being quite funny, that was a massive morale booster, and it showed a lot more confidence in the team today. To the extent that really, apart from that, there was that 15-minute spell in the first half where we kind of let them get on top of us a little bit. I thought we pretty much controlled most of that game, apart from that spell. Fornell's, I'm sure Fornell's, if he doesn't know already, will be being told when they do the analysis on Monday, wherever it is they're going.
Yep.
Excuse me. Wherever it is they're going to be allowed to train. Lots and lots of positives. Souček is really settling in nicely, and apart from anything else, he is a threat at set pieces. It makes you wonder if he was a striker in a previous life or when he was growing up and sort of moved back to midfield, because certainly the finish today was excellent.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And two in succession. I think, when we bought him, I seem to recall there was a lot of talk about how proficient he was aerially, and that's certainly come to the fore in the since he's been here, really. We just moving away briefly from today's game, looking ahead. We face Burnley back in Stratford next this Wednesday. Burnley, of course, drew 1-1 today in their latest outing home to Sheffield United, and are comfortably sitting in the upper half of the table in ninth spot. Pinky, you referred to Newcastle previously when you stated that you hoped they felt they were, kind of on the beach already, given their position. They're safe from relegation. They're not going to qualify for Europe. They must be happy with their lot, I would imagine, so far. Burnley, do we think they're in a reasonably similar state, or do we think that they're going to have a little bit more to play for, given the fact that they are ninth in the table and they're only sort of where are we? 46 points, there's 6 points behind Arsenal in seventh, so it's probably unlikely they're going to make Europe. So, is it a similar situation too today, do you think, with Newcastle?
No, not at all, because the difference is Sergeant Major Dyche has never had anyone deliver pizza late to his front door. It just doesn't happen. He phones Domino's straight to the front of the queue, in it comes, and they put an extra topping on for him. He's absolutely in charge there, and there is no chance whatsoever Burnley are going to rock up and be on the beach. He will make them run till the last kick of the season, and because that's what he's got, and that's what he does. And he knows that football club, they are short on quality, but effort is equal. And if you're willing to run just a little bit further, a little bit harder, and do the work that other so-called better players aren't, you might get something. And so I think it'll be a tough game on Wednesday, because if I've got a worry, it's maybe we start to think we're on the beach. Maybe we start to think, let's say Liverpool turn Aston Villa over heavily here this afternoon. We might look at that and go, great job done. And that might be a game too soon. So, Mafia, we've run Antonio into the ground a bit this afternoon. I wouldn't be surprised to see Haller make an appearance on Wednesday night somehow. maybe come on for the first half of the first hour, just to give Antonio a bit of a rest. But easy game, no chance.
Excellent. So looking ahead over the course of the next 9 or 10 days, it is Burnley on Wednesday, and then of course we go to Norwich next Saturday. And I think you've got to be looking at that as a 3-pointer, Rio, haven't you? Really? And then of course we complete that little trio of fixtures against. We talk about winnable games. I guess every game's winnable. It's one of those phrases. But Burnley, Norwich, and then Watford, who are, we talk about Bournemouth and Villa struggling, Rio, but Watford seem to be just as bad as any of those. If we're looking at those 3 fixtures ahead, what do you see points-wise as an acceptable return for West Ham, and what do you see as a likely return?
I think both acceptable and likely is a 5-point.
Okay.
If we walked away with a point from Burnley away, I would be absolutely delighted. It's a tough place to go.
Yeah, we're at home on that one.
Sorry.
But I mean, the point, it doesn't really matter, does it? I guess that's the point at the moment.
Any Sean Dyche sides who run their nuts off, despite the fact whoever puts out, it could be his first choice 11, or as he's been forced to play in recent weeks, an under strength 11. Or run their nuts off for him, work to the death for him. So a point there would be a great result.
And Norwich?
Norwich, we've not had a lot of success there.
No, I see Pinky nodding his head as well. He's in agreement with you there.
I go to Norwich regularly because for me it's the best away day in football.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love the place. But I can't remember very many wins there. The last time I can actually remember winning was in the FA Cup run in 2006. We've picked up a few points, but it's not a happy hunting ground for us. And despite the fact that they're on the back foot, they're virtually gone, bless them. It's still not going to be an easy game, They're going to go for everything. They're going to be up for it. I don't want the complacency sitting for us as well, which has happened. I mean, it showed after we scored a day. We kind of went into like, oh, we're up, we're safe, we've got a goal, we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
It took a bit of a reality check to bring us back to equilibrium. So,
and it happened twice, didn't it? Of course, we led twice
exactly,
today. And, couldn't hang on to the lead for more than 10, 15 minutes on either occasion.
I think the second one was more of a reaction from Newcastle rather than us being kind of complacent. But the first goal, especially, we just kind of went back in their shell like, oh, the work rate we'd put on Wednesday was enough. We're a goal up today. We don't need to do anything. And we did, obviously.
Fair point. Moving forward to the third of those games, how do you see Watford at home next week? Watford are in dire straits at the moment, aren't they?
Very much so. But again, they've got a manager in Nigel Pearson who he's another like kind of short, nice figure, isn't he?
Yeah.
As soon as he went into that club, I mean, they look gone a while back.
Yes, yeah.
He's kind of shook them up, and he's brought out a change of work ethic. And again, he's not a fashionable manager, but he gets results from players and he gets them working and gets them fulfilling their potential. They've dipped again in recent weeks, but the break has been very unkind for them.
Yes.
I mean, I'll take a point now. You should be looking at 3, obviously, but a point now in our position, it's one of them 2 games that me and Pinky identified a week ago. We do not lose. You do not lose either that game or the Villa game. And we're in a much, much far better position than we would be now.
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. We are known on 31 points now. So we're kind of in the region now where we're saying perhaps one more win and pick up a couple of draws elsewhere and we're safe. Possibly looking at the way it's going elsewhere. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, as we said on, I'm not sure it was on this one or the modcast, but there's always a danger of sort of getting that target and then shifting into sort of, with their mode. I think that the way that what the team talk should be for the next week is, excuse me, it's Wednesday's Burnley, isn't it?
Yes.
So we're on 31, and what you say on Wednesday is, well, a win here, and the finishing line is in sight. So what are you going to do? Don't get complacent, because you sit on your backsides. This is a hard-working team. They will, they will run you into the ground. So do you want it? We want to be safe as soon as we possibly can. So I actually think that on the improvement of the last two games, I actually think that we'll beat Burnley, and it's Norwich on Saturdays. I think we'll win both those two.
Okay.
That will see us safe, and then the team talk should be, look, it's Watford. Come on, nobody. Look, it's Troy Deeney. Do you really want him to stay up? And so there's Troy Deeney. There's his nose. There's the stuff. Rub his nose in it. Let's send them down. That's the way to do it.
Okay.
But, Karen.
Yeah. No. Thank you for that. Pinky, West Ham are safe now, aren't they?
How old are you? Yeah, come off it. Come off it.
Come on, I'm tempting you in. Come on.
Yeah, you are. But our ability to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory is legendary. And but again, be serious for a moment.
Yep.
It's our Achilles heel for so many years, forever, is the mental weakness, and part of that is we're safe, job done.
Yep.
What do you mean we're safe? Which footballer ever dreamt, as he's signing professional forms, of going, my ideal position is to be safe in the Premier League? It's not the stuff of dreams. Yeah, you're dreaming about scoring a goal in a cup final. You're dreaming about, scoring in front of the North Bank or the South Bank and chucking yourself into it. No one ever dreamt of being safe. Yeah. So what are we talking about? We're safe. Oh, that's okay then. Now, let's be really clear here. Yet again, we are floating around the wrong end of the division, with the giants that are the yo-yo club Norwich City, with Aston Villa who are on their uppers and things like that. This is not where we want to be.
Yeah.
And for my money, again, we're back to the almost annual root and branch review. What is going on here? And the one small crumb of comfort I'm taking is the last two players to come in, Bowen and Souček. I think that's the first money that Moyes has spent. Am I right in that?
Well, certainly since coming back in, yeah. Oh, you mean in his both spells or just this one?
I think in both spells. Who didn't sign?
Well, we bought Hugill, didn't we? I think, but he's never played for us. So
we'll gloss over that.
Yeah.
Who's his agent? Is it Moyes' brother or something like that?
Yes, I wonder.
Kind of thing. And I was reading today that Moyes' dad's still a scout at Everton or something like that. But in all seriousness, we need to recruit better. We need to have a better plan of how we want to play, the players we want to get to fill those positions. And, we've just got ourselves in this awful mess again, where at a crucial stage of the season, for whatever reason, we haven't got a recognised striker, on the pitch. It's just not a proper recognised striker. I've got grave doubts about Issa Diop at centre back. I really do. And again, we spent top dollar on him, and it might just be his lack of experience that's been exposed, because he is young for a centre back. And you look at someone like Harry Maguire now, who gets regularly slated. But Maguire, I think, is 28, and I think he's got about 300 games under his belt.
Yeah.
So centre backs in the top flight tend to blossom late. So you don't get many who are really top draw in their early 20s. So Diop may have time on his side, but for me, whether we finish 15th, 16th, 17th, this is not a good season. This, staying up, staying safe. It's not open top bus time. It's what the hell is going on.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, I think it's a really good point you make, and I'm sure that when it comes to the summer, we can all sit down and look back at the season as a whole. But I guess priority right now, Rio, is purely about staying up. I mean, Pinky's obviously right. I mean, we know that there's huge issues that we need to look at. Hammers United, of course, are leading the charge as far as the supporters are concerned in terms of challenging the board and their record. But right now, I guess it really is all about survival in these next 5 games. And we think West Ham, probably another 5 points, should be safe. I mean, do you see, Rio, any issues with West Ham collecting the necessary number of points between now and the 26th of July?
No, because compared to our rivals in those positions, we've got a far more favourable running than they have.
Yeah.
No, I think our toughest game on paper as it is, Man United away.
Yeah.
And as much as they've improved and they look really good at the moment, we still at the start of the season, there's weaknesses to be exposed there.
Yep.
They've obviously improved, as I said, but that's the toughest one. And obviously, but a lot of those clubs we're playing are in our kind of midst in the relegation battle.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we avoid defeat in each of those games, pick up points, deny the opposition points, we're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. If we avoid defeat, that's a minimum of 5 points, which takes us to that 36 that we all sort of feel is going to be roughly enough, isn't it? So yeah, that would. It's looking good anyway. As I said, we're looking a lot better off than we were this time 1 week ago. Just going to dive into the match thread quickly, just to see what some of our fellow KUMB forum members are saying about today's game. John stresses that he saw a number of positives today. He said Rice was awesome, Ogbonna commanding, perhaps with the exception of that 10-minute brain fart in the first half. But he says he loves how he reads the game and gets upfield quickly to make a challenge hammer of the year, according to John, which is something we also mentioned, probably at the wrong time, during the game. Souček gets better every time, each and every time. Tackles, heads, passes and scores. No questions there. Bowen, our best corner taker since Pyatt. Another assist in open play. And we'll come back to that in just a second, actually, because Bowen might be getting overlooked, perhaps, given the successes of players like Souček and Rice. Antonio, another goal. Yarmolenko crunches those shots. Fredericks, solid and quick. And I want to come back to Fredericks as well in a minute, because that was one of our concerns prior to kickoff this afternoon. Noam, why don't you take up the Bowen angle and tell us what you think about, hasn't scored again, but yet chalked up another assist today. Excellent signing, isn't he?
Yeah, what he's brought to that sort of attacking midfield strikery area. These days these lines get very much blurred, but what he's brought to that is a bit of movement, a bit of dynamism.
Yeah.
Somebody who's spent his life, knocking around the championship and has, got a chance at Premier League level.
Yeah.
And he's got that enthusiasm, that spark. I'm playing in the Premier League. I'm not going to blow this chance, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it has sort of given us a more impetus going forward.
Mm-hmm.
When we do have to clear the ball long, he's a willing runner to chase down those channels.
Yep.
He can beat a player. He can cut in. You say he's overlooked. I guess. I mean, Souček is on here getting the plaudits and all that, but
yep.
Obviously a different role completely from Souček. But yeah, he is definitely adding something to that. That getting down the line and getting things in for Antonio to bury. I mean, twice in 2 games we've had that combination now.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned he takes a decent corner, which is not something we've been blessed with in recent years.
John on the forum felt that he's our best corner taker since Pyatt.
Yeah, I mean, where I sit in both in the Olympic Stadium, going back to the millions of years we sat in the bowling. And it used to be a running joke between us whenever we got a corner. Somebody would invariably say, "Oh, it's all right, we never score from corners," purely for those occasions, the one or two times a season that we seem to score from them, just to try and prod it along, sort of the superstition type thing. We rarely do, but what have we got? 2 goals from corners or set pieces of that nature anyway. 3 if you count the Souček goal that was bizarrely disallowed. That came from a set piece.
Yep.
And it is good to see because it's never been a strong point.
No, that's it. That's right. Thanks, No. Pinky, your thoughts on
Fredericks?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, first of all, I just see if you concur with what Noam was saying there about Bowen. But yes, I did want you to let us know what you thought about Fredericks and how he handled Saint Maximin today, because we thought he was going to struggle and didn't really put a foot wrong. I mean, you pointed out that he gave him a couple of uppers, big challenges in the first half, and trotted off with his tail between his legs midway through the second half, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's done okay today.
Who? Fredericks? Sorry.
That's not to damn the young man with faint praise or anything like that, but But I keep coming back to it, and even Bowen himself there, whereby Bowen's okay. He's done very well for us since he's joined. But reality check. We're 16th in the league at the minute?
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. What's moving us up to 8th? What do we need to get to 8th? So let's forget Europe for now. Okay. Let's just say we want 2 seasons where we're 8th and then maybe 7th, something like that. What are the differences we're gonna make? And for my money, we're looking at it again now. In terms of minutes on the pitch, the average age of the players, we have the 2nd oldest team this season. Only Burnley fielder an older 11. And what that basically means is you've got to go and replace players year after year after year, because the players you're signing generally are at the tail end of their careers, not the formative part of their careers. And every bit of research, every bit of analysis will show that the more changes you make to a squad each season, the lower down the league you'll finish. Okay? The teams that are winning the leagues sign the fewest players to their squad each year. So Bayern Munich being the classic one in Germany, they hardly ever sign players, but they win every year. Man City aren't signing that many players at the minute. Liverpool, not that many. What they all have in common is when they sign a player, they sign top draw and pay top dollar. That's what they do. We, time and time again, buy a dozen players, 8 of which will be poor, 2 of which will be okay, that kind of thing, and maybe 2 are decent. And we're doing it too often because we're not brave enough to say, player X, 50 million quid, he's a dead cert. And even when we do, we then don't get the next part of the jigsaw. So we'll sign Haller on the basis of a striker who's used to playing with someone alongside him. And then we'll say, sorry, mate, we've done all the budget on you, so you've got to do the job by yourself. And then he's no good. And I keep coming back to it. We're not recruiting well enough. We're not consistent enough. We don't have a plan. And I see nothing that's going to take us up 8 places in the table. And it's next season, what's it going to be? Same as this. Lower half, maybe not quite as disastrous, but we touched on it in the first half today. And maybe a bit harshly on Fabianski because of the weather conditions. I think there's one corner kick, Gordon, you said was a very good corner. Basically, the ball was being blown into the net. But Fabianski's not getting any younger. So, we'll need a keeper. Cresswell's going to need replacing. Noble is going to need replacing at some point. We're going to need a partner or somebody to go alongside Haller. What's moving us up from 16th to 8th? And the answer is about 150 million quid. And we don't have it.
which we don't have. Yeah, I'm actually, Pinky, that's an interesting point. While you're talking about the players' ages there, I'm just having a quick look at the squad list. Zabaleta was the oldest at 35, and obviously he's gone. But Fabianski 35 too now. So maybe we can get away with 2 or 3 years on him, given the fact that goalkeepers obviously tend to play a little bit longer. David Martin 34. And then we've got, you're looking at Noble, 33, Snodgrass is 32, Angelo Ogbona's 32, Yarmolenko, Cresswell, Antonio, they're all 30. They're on the wrong side of 30. So that's 10 to a dozen players. I've not included Winston Reid, who is obviously out on loan at the moment. All players, the wrong side of 30. So yes, I mean, if not this season, we're going to need to be replacing those soon. And, we're going to go just looking at the other end of the squad. And among the first team regulars, you've got Declan Rice, is the youngest player at 21. Issa Diop, 23. Bowen, 23. Fornals, 24. Souček, 25. Haller, 26. So you've got a little core there, I think, that we can build on, haven't we? Assuming that we can keep those players. And then you've got the players perhaps in their prime, like Anderson, Lanzini, Fredericks, Wilshere, Balbuena, all 27, 28, which, I guess...
They're in their prime, you say?
Well, I would say, wouldn't you say that's prime age 27, 28 for a pro footballer?
Prime age, but prime form?
No, that's fair enough. I mean, Wilshere...
That's
a very good point, yeah.
The guys who you'd want to be the main focal point of the team, because they're in that 27-year-old area. 27 is absolutely peak for top flight footballers, and the ones who you'd want to be doing it for us, either are permacrocs, just total loss of form, just not capable, and I'm afraid it comes back to recruitment and our lack of a proper plan, not over one season or 2 seasons, but dare I say it, a decade. And there's a clue there.
And we know what yes, exactly. Rio, Pinky says the club has no plan. David Moyes has spoken about trying to emulate Leipzig, for one. Not quite sure he's going to have the finances to do that. But where do we go from here in the summer? I mean, it looks like Moyes is going to be entrusted to take the team on. There doesn't seem any chance, especially if we stay up. I mean, surely they've got to give him the opportunity for a full season, a full pre-season for the first time. They didn't do it last time. But as Pinky says, if the money's not available, does it matter what plan you've got? Where do we go? Where do we go in the summer? How do we build? How do we turn this 15th, 16th place finish? Fingers crossed we get that at the moment into Pinky's 8th place finish next season.
Well, what Pinky said is absolutely spot on. Our transfer policy has always been about short-termism.
Yeah,
I think the last window is probably the most successful since Billich's first one.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the players we brought in. We brought in Bowen, 23 years old.
Yep.
Full of energy, full of industry, offering something different, bit of form, something to prove. And in 6 games he started, he's contributed a goal and 3 assists.
Yep.
The right age as well, 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Souček, off the radar of a lot of players, a lot of clubs, sorry. Exactly what we needed. And we've seen over the last 2 or 3 games exactly what he's brought to our team, and it was desperately needed. But we need not just one window like that. We need 7 or 8, a continual build-up. Where are we going to get the finances from? That's a different matter. Unless Brady's got 5 loaves and 2 fishes up her sleeve, we're struggling. But we need a root and branch kind of clear out and a rethink of the way we recruit. I know Moyes has said that he wants to recruit players from the Championship, young and hungry, much in the ilk of Bowen.
Yep.
And if we bought someone in the 3 attacking midfielders we play, someone Bowen-esque on the left-hand side as well as the right, adding that dynamic would help us a lot. So I believe he's got another year at least to prove himself.
Yep.
I think that's part of his remit when he joined. He had an 18-month kind of window to kind of build and operate. If he's going to operate in the same way he did in the last transfer window, it's a step in the right direction, and it's something that's desperately needed.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's certainly positives. I mean, Moyes has taken an awful lot of stick gnome, hasn't he, in the last few weeks since he came back. Prior to the Chelsea game, it was 2 wins in his whole second spell at the club. It was all doom and gloom, but I think, yeah, as the guys have rightly pointed out, the 2 signings he's made, the 2 big investments, have been absolutely superb and have really changed the shape and the style of the first team. Looking at that side, if we're going to say that Fabianski is okay for the next 2 to 3 years, and assuming he doesn't have a major downturn in form, I think that's pretty nailed on. Where are we going to make changes? Because you've got Rice and Souček now forming what looks like a really good partnership in the centre there, and perhaps finally we found our successor for Mark Noble. What would you prioritise in the summer as areas that need to be addressed immediately?
Well, you mentioned Fabianski, and we've got to spend in the goalkeeping department, if not for a direct replacement, somebody who's actually capable of challenging Fabianski. Not someone who might, quote, do a job, unquote. So not a Roberto. We need a sort of succession plan coming through there, so that, as you say, Fabianski's 35. Yes, goalkeepers mature late, but also at the age of 35, you're only one semi-serious injury away from that being it. Then,
yeah.
So I'd want to see something there. The striker situation, we've got to decide how we want to play.
Yes.
And tailor the lineup to that. So if we're going to be playing with a lone striker, we need to be looking at somebody who can play that role, who isn't Haller. Too often we see a player and think, well, he's good, we'll sign him. And nobody says, well, how's he going to fit into what we want to do? And it's like, yeah, but he's good. But we kind of go. I mean, we are rehashing a lot of old ground here. That we go from window to window without any sort of seeming plan. But but based on what we've got to look at goalkeeper. We've got to look at the striker situation, and we've got to look at both fullbacks.
Yeah.
Again, and it's. We've been saying we've got to look at fullbacks for the last 4 years. However many years it is. I mean, Cresswell's not getting any younger, as we said. Their goal, lack of protection from the players in front of him. He got caught, but it does look like teams kind of target, our fullbacks. Why wouldn't you? So those are the areas we've got to look at. But before we do that, it's how we're going to play. This is what and then we need to have a strategy, a plan. I mean, you look at Southampton's little black box, as they called it, their computer program where they look at scientifically at every player that they can find and see how he'd fit into the side. And yes, a little bit moneyballish perhaps, but and so that's then when they very rarely transfer somebody out.
Yep.
With the exception of those players that Liverpool keep tapping up, that goes on to do better elsewhere. We had the Portuguese lad from them, and he basically lasted half a season with it. Was that Fonte, wasn't it?
Yep.
He lasted half a season with us.
Yep.
And that was because Southampton looked at the stats and thought, he's only so and so, but we've looked at his stats. We think, if we get money for him, that's a good deal for us. So off he goes.
Yeah.
And because they know what they're doing, they've got that strategy. They've got that. However way you look at it, if it's having decent scouts, having computer programs. I mean, Brentford, we mentioned the other week, have a similar sort of. I don't know what if they use the software or whatever, but they have a plan and a strategy. So players come in and go out of that club based on what they're trying to do.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
championship level, but isn't it a bit embarrassing that they've got that sort of strategy and we don't appear to? Yeah.
dare I say that that's a similar thing that Sam Allardyce used to speak about not so many years ago when he was at the club. Just diving back into the, thanks, Noam, just diving back into the match thread quickly, just to see some more comments, moving back to this afternoon's game quickly. Bonzo Bob says, a point away from home is always a good result in my book. It's beginning to look as though we will stay up, despite the utter rubbish that we have been for most of the season. Job done for Moyes and Gold, Sullivan and Brady. Eggs and Nuts says, once again, Iron Mike, Deck, Souček, Oggy Bowen, all standout performances. Moyes, I think, got the subs right again. We'll come back to that in just a moment. It's a shame that 2 lapses of concentration cost us all 3 points. But if you would have offered me 4 points out of our last 2 games, I would have snatched your hand. I think that's a feeling that most of West Ham's supporters share. Pinky, we've been critical of Mr. Moyes and his substitutions in the first 2 games we covered in Eyes Up Mother Brown, the Wolves and Tottenham games. We felt that he was being a little bit more proactive, perhaps, against Newcastle today and Chelsea last week. Do we think perhaps he was listening to what people were saying?
I don't know about that. I think certainly, I mean, Moyes has got, what, 930 odd games as a manager under his belt. Okay? Yep. And there was a journalist in the national press this week who was getting stuck into him for, negative substitutions or whatever it may be. And I'm not sure how many games that journalist has actually managed professional teams for. And the reason I mention that is I well recall a comment from Sam Allardyce once, which he said, well, anyone's entitled to an opinion, but is it an informed opinion? And Allardyce at the time was telling us all he was getting paid millions of pounds a year for his, which kind of suggests the weight that people would put behind his opinion. So I mentioned all of that because for us as supporters and people who, we all watch an awful lot of football, at the end of the day, we're not in the position of saying, who do I put on right now and actually backing our livelihood with it. So whilst I'd make changes because there's no risk to me making a change as a supporter.
Sure.
It's a bit different for David Moyes. And the question he's going to ask himself is, am I actually going to get a better outcome from this lot behind me on the bench than I've got from that lot out there on the pitch?
Yep.
And he's balancing, particularly in this peculiar season, fitness of players, availability of players, has he got enough games to get 23 players fit, match fit, I mean? And I'd suggest not. So I think his overall strategy of trying to go with that core kind of 15 players has been the right one, because common sense would say all of the players had a much longer layoff than normal. You can't get them all match fit because there's not enough games. And therefore you've got to make your choices really less about what's going on day to or minute by minute actually in a game, but more about this is a mini season of 8 matches and I'm going to go with a smaller squad for this mini season. That's effectively what he's done. On the broader issue then, if we go to a regular season, if I can call it that, do I think he's slow or quick? It comes down to options. It just comes down to options. And just to go back very briefly to the discussion they're having there on players' ages.
Yep.
The most depressing thing of all, as you ran through their ages and you pointed out Declan Rice was the youngest player. But he's the only one that anyone is really talking about us getting any offers for. So, the players who we might want to shift, and David Moyes might be there going, well, I need to make an improvement in this part of the team, that part of the team, and so forth. Well, he can't because he's stuck with the players he's already got. And it's the difference between real football management and fantasy football management. And I don't think any of us are going to spot a player better than David Moyes per se. But just because we can say, well, player A is a better option than player B, well, that doesn't matter to a real life manager if player B has got a 5-year contract at 80 grand a week and no one else is going to touch. I mean, which brings us neatly to Winston Reid. Where is Kansas? Anyone know? And how
It's a
has
long way from here.
but, you know,
I don't think we're there anymore.
did for us for many years. If you look at our squad overall now, he was signed by Avram Grant. Okay, we've got players signed by Sam Allardyce. We've got players signed by Slaven Bilic.
Mm-hmm.
Players signed by Manuel Pellegrini, David Moyes, and not forgetting our chairman's little fetish for his own involvement in transfers and so forth. And then if you count the academy as another manager, so you've got the current manager with probably the thoughts of 7 or 8 other, managers who have put the team together or the squad together.
Yep.
And he's got to say, well, it's not really my squad. And it's been like this now for near enough 20 years.
Yeah.
And we wonder why we don't progress.
Yes, we definitely desperately need a bit of longevity, aren't we? In terms of and again, this is something coming back to what you were saying about the most successful teams. You see this, the best teams, the teams that win things, have managers that remain at clubs for a time. And how can we be expected to be successful as a club if we're chopping and changing managers every 2 or 3 years? There's no continuity. It's illogical to expect any team to be successful like that. I should stress, I was slightly concerned when you mentioned the chairman's fetish there, Pinky. It was nothing to be worried about. We do have the thoughts of David Moyes in now. So I shall regale you with his very own words, which I have a transcript of right now. Talking about the result, David Moyes says, we should have picked one up at Sheffield United. I think that I'm disappointed in our defending that we didn't do better generally, but I'm not disappointed in the players. In many ways, I'm not disappointed in picking a point up, but I just felt there was an opportunity to get 3 and we gave it away so quickly. He was asked specifically about Fornals and what led to the equalising goal. And if I just scroll down a little bit to find that, he says the question was, Gale would have been offside if Fornals had come out. Are you frustrated in that lack of concentration? And Moyes replied, yes, but I am more disappointed that the central defenders tried to squeeze up to let him in. We should have been looking where our deepest defender was and make sure they were doing their job as a line. It would have been offside if they hadn't and Fornals had come back in. I think Fornals worked really hard to stop a cross and defend that corner. He just didn't get out quickly enough. It was disappointing, especially just after scoring. Rio, a defence of Pablo Fornals from our manager there. Is he saying the right things? Or if you were one of the 2 centre-halves there, would you be a little bit aggrieved that he's perhaps holding you responsible for not being aware of the fact that your winger was 10 yards behind you, sort of 30 yards to your left?
No, I absolutely agree with Moyes there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to castigate a player, make him a scapegoat for one error.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a really bright spark for us for the last 5 or 6 months.
Yep.
You hang him out to dry, and you know what social media is like. One little word and it spreads like wildfire. You get people on his back, you're going to destroy the fella. He's done all right. He's made a massive mistake today, but you can't cast adrift a player like that.
Yep.
And let him take all the flack under the world. He's done the right thing. He's defended his player. I'm really pleased about that.
Good point. And Rio, and he goes on to say that, talking about picking up that away point, he says we've had a lot of games where we've been away at big clubs, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, but we're in a group of games now where I think we have a chance to pick up some points, alluding to, Pinky, what you were saying previously about Moyes perhaps looking at certain games in our running and targeting those as, 3-pointers perhaps. Moyes continues, if you turn it around and say we got a point against Chelsea and then 3 here at Newcastle, I think people would start seeing we'd made the turn. So I think the last 2 games, the players have shown good spirit, heart, determination and commitment to the team. So the next game is really important, but they all are. Everyone will say the same, and we need to get points wherever you can. Finally, he says he's asked if he's more enthusiastic following the last two results. And he says, I'm really pleased with how the players have done and the effort they put in. Newcastle were in a decent run of form. And I think that's something that's very important not to forget. Of course, Newcastle won 4-1 at one of our rivals just a few days ago when they smashed Bournemouth. But we did a good job today. Moyes continues, the game was nip and tuck. We were on top at the end, so I'm really pleased we got something from the game. Maybe disappointed it wasn't all three. The players are showing great fight, and it will go right to the end. This league could easily go down to the last game of the season. We understand that, and we are prepared for that if it has to be done. But we need to get it done, make sure we are a Premier League club as soon as we can before the last knockings. Gnome, given the last two results, do you think it's going to go to the last game of the season now, or do you think we can be safe by the time we play Villa?
It's in our hands. We should be safe well before we play Villa. And it's basically if we're having to go down to the last wire and it is Villa, we've been shooting ourselves in the foot. No, I think I said earlier on, the team talks have all got to be, look, do you really want to be sitting there the last game of the season having to worry about how the result goes or watching, see how other results go? Go out, play as you've been playing. I mean, players you've been playing, you'll get the rewards. I mean, by and large, you should do. Just as an update, as I've got the Villa game on in the background, which is maybe surprisingly, it's half-time, Liverpool 0, Villa 0.
Interesting.
And, it looks a bit of a scrappy game from what I'm not really sort of concentrating at. But, it's not a foregone conclusion that these teams aren't going to get the points against teams that we think they should be getting slaughtered by. So, Liverpool, their reign as champions effectively lasted one match, didn't it, until the City game the other night.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got it's in our hands, and we've got to play it like that.
Okay, thanks, Gnome. Pinky, Gnome says it's in our hands. Moyes kind of going along with what you were suggesting a week or two ago back, that, it's not the games against Wolves or Tottenham or even perhaps Chelsea that we've got to worry about. It's those against the teams in and around us.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always leagues and leagues. And I mean, I'm sure we'll be fine. But just briefly, I want to go back to Rio's comments, if I may, about the manager defending a young player. I understand why the manager's done it, and I can see why Rio is supporting the manager's stance there. And what the manager says in public is one thing, but I absolutely stand by my comments that in private, he needs a word, because Jurgen Klopp, who everyone seems to love and thinks is a really nice guy, and he had a goalkeeper that played like an absolute muppet in a European Cup final. He didn't go up to him and say, "You'll never walk alone," and put an arm around him. He let him sit at the end of a pitch, getting slated by his teammates all alone, and then the very next day essentially shipped him out to another club whilst spending 75 million quid buying a keeper. Because that's what champions do, because they know that's what you've got to do to win a league. Is you can't soft soap professional footballers, you have to make decisions. Okay? And so I'm not saying we chuck Fornals out with the bathwater. He was a Liverpool player, and he made an error like that, he would not start the next game. And the difference at West Ham, and where I'll be perhaps fair to the manager here, because he doesn't have as many options, he may have to start Fornals, even though he knows he's made an absolute howler there that's cost the team 2 points. To go back to the question of the leagues and leagues, absolutely. And more than anything, I'm not going to say we should be beating the likes of Watford and Norwich and Villa. Okay, because heaven knows our record against recently promoted clubs never seems to be that great. But it's the mental toughness in us. do we really want to beat those clubs? Do the 11 players we put on the field against those teams really grasp that to have a winning mentality means you have got to put those clubs to the slaughter in those must-win games, or are we just going to say, try your hardest, lads, and if you get a result, we'll all be happy and go down the pub and have a beer. But actually, do you know what? If you get turned over by Norwich and Watford, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
The players need to meet their responsibilities. We've got, we're paying them a lot of money, both in fees and wages and what have you. They've got better facilities than they've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally you've got to say, lads, forget pointing at David Moyes, forget pointing at Kevin Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
You lot, what are you doing? What are you doing? And hands up everyone who's confident of our ability to defend a corner kick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The opposition's got a corner. Hands up who doesn't think it's going to be a goal to the opposition.
I wonder if fans of other clubs go through the same things that we do. It'd be interesting to learn, actually, because it's been a problem for years, isn't it? I mean, you go back and you look at clubs like Reading, even Blackpool, clubs that come up from the Championship seem to turn us over on a frequent and regular basis. And it's long been something that I've never really understood is how, we can sign players that have been performing really well for other clubs and they come to West Ham and they seem to either go off the boil or they just can't recreate that kind of form. I guess the most obvious example in the current squad would be Felipe Anderson, a player who was, doing really well for himself, came here, had a decent first season, scored a couple of really good goals. But this season, it looks like his mind's elsewhere and doesn't want to be here. And there's some sort of malaise, I think, inherent here at this club. And I don't know what it is. And I don't even know if it's just down to the current owners. But it's something that seems to have gone on for, time eternal, really, as West Ham fans. Anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a meander there. Rein himself back in, bringing us back into current events. Just looking at the chat. Who was it now? Someone told me that, Calais Sauerland said that Hugh Gill, who we were talking about earlier as Moyes' only signing in the last January transfer window, he scored for QPR today. And Noam and Pinky, while you were talking there, I was just quickly looking at his stats for this season. Hugh Gill, 41 appearances for Queen's Park Rangers this season. He scored 15 goals. It's a pretty decent return, I guess, but perhaps that just shows the difference between, the quality of the Championship and the Premier League, although he's never really had the opportunity, has he, to perform in the Premier League. Just quickly going back to David Moyes, Rio, talking again about specific individuals. He was asked about Souček and Antonio and their performances in the last couple of games, and Moyes replied, when we got Thomas in, we knew he had goals in him. We hadn't seen it yet, but then he played very well against Chelsea and very well again today. He's got other attributes that can help us too. I think Michail Antonio getting another goal is good for him as well. So, goals are good, but we really need to stop conceding them at the other end. We need a clean sheet. He wraps up by saying, I don't want to be a team that concedes 2 goals, so has to score 3 all the time to win, although that probably ties into the West Ham way and the supporters' preferred ethos, I suppose, to win 3-2 rather than 1-0 every game. Hugh Gill, Souček and Antonio touched on there, Rio. It's quite interesting, I felt, to note that Moyes said that they targeted Souček for his goals. I mean, we knew that he was a bit of a pain or a target because of his height at set pieces, but interesting to hear Moyes say that, that was one of the reasons they bought him.
Yeah, no, he's a record for Slavia Prague this year. He scores an awful lot of goals from midfield.
Yeah.
As has been alluded to.
Yeah.
He's a kind of Czech Fellaini.
Yeah.
But he's also a leader. He's got all the attributes that we need. He's a box-to-box midfielder. He does his defensive shift. He's a threat at set pieces. As we saw today, When the chances come in the box, he's composed, he can finish. But also the leadership attributes are a massive thing for us.
Yes.
And that's what we've got to capitalise on.
Yeah, actually, you make a really good point there. I'm just looking at his record for Slavia Prague this season prior to tipping up at West Ham. And he'd scored 11 goals already this season. If you look at his Prague record in total, he's scored 31 times in 89 starts. That's just in the league alone. That's a pretty decent record, isn't it, for a midfielder?
Yeah,
Well, 1 in 3.
absolutely. Absolutely. You know, if it was an English player, he'd be worth 80 million.
Yeah. Well, that's almost Lampard-esque, isn't it? Sort of a 1 in 3
yeah.
return from midfield.
Or dare I say it, Kevin Nolan-esque.
Yes. Yes. We
Slightly different play, right? Because Nolan used to play off the front of the striker almost.
Yeah.
And pick up them bits and pieces in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Souček is more box-to-box midfield. He does the work defensively, as I said. He's got that leadership skills, which we've been severely lacking.
Yep.
He's not a round player, and I'm really surprised, having seen him in action, that a bigger club hasn't picked up on him.
Yes,
I have a concern. No? I have a concern about Souček. Nothing to do with his playing, and you know, it looks a fine player and all that. But given that this week we discovered that we got behind on the payments for one of the players that we've got on the books permanently, they've got to be very, very careful that whatever clauses are in the Souček contract, and you know, I think we've got the obligation to buy him if we stay up.
Yes.
And for a certain fee, and I would guess that certain fee has to be paid within a certain period, and that's all been agreed. We've got to make sure that every payment is made on time, because what I don't want to see at the end of the season is us stay up and we think, great, well, Souček, that's looking good for next season, and you know we ring them up and say, oh yeah, check's in the post, honest, and when it doesn't arrive, somebody rings up Slavia Prague and say, how much were West Ham supposed to pay? Well, we'll give you another 5 million.
Yeah.
Catch on the nail.
I jokingly alluded to this on Wednesday, but you can't joke with West Ham, can you?
Yeah.
You just know that there's something in the background which will not add up.
We've got issues.
Pinky?
Can I toss in another madcap conspiracy theory?
Go for it.
Maybe our chairman, you know, who whatever you might think of him, he actually isn't an idiot. You know, he's an intelligent man. He's a well-educated man.
Mm-hmm.
Just maybe, he's just testing Eintracht Frankfurt out. I'll hang on to the money. I won't pay what we owe. And to see whether or not the comment, instead of you can't play the player, if that is what happened.
Yep.
It's a fine line between that and, okay, then we'll take him back then. And maybe it's just Sullivan putting a marker down, saying, do you know what? We might want to shift this player.
Okay.
You know, and
interesting.
just a little tempter to the Germans to maybe suggest, how about we do the same with you that we did with Randolph at Middlesbrough, and effectively we send him back to you and we forget about the 40 odd million, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how Frankfurt have done this season, but there's something not right there. And you know, maybe I'm just making up an load of old baloney because I'm filling a couple of minutes of airtime, but you know, it's not beyond the wit of man that the chairman might be inviting a tackle, if I can call it that, from Eintracht. Yeah,
well, it's an interesting theory. I'm just looking at the Bundesliga table there, Pinky. Frankfurt, they're currently 9th in the. It's a 19-team division, the Bundesliga this year. They're 9th place, played 45 points. It looks like they're kind of like this year's Burnley, I suppose you would say.
Did they replace Burnley? Did they replace Haller?
I have no idea.
Well,
does anybody know?
But they also lost Jovic as well.
Yeah.
They lost an absolute deadly
They
partnership.
did. Yes. So yeah, ninth. They're currently safe in mid-table. So probably not much for their fans to get excited about this. But it's an interesting theory, and we like interesting theories on this show. I love hearing Pinky's theories, especially when they get proved
Well,
right.
I mean, put another way, he's the club record signing for us
Yeah.
by Pellegrini. We've now got Moyes as manager. Maybe Moyes just doesn't fancy him. And maybe Moyes just says, Mr. Chairman, I'm really sorry, but you're going to have to go to the market again and get me a different kind of striker, because this guy is not going to play the up top on his own role. And I want to play a 4-2-3-1. And he cannot be the one. So I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you need to go and solve this problem for me.
Another interesting theory from our man Pinky there. Time will, of course, tell whether there's anything in that. We should find out sooner rather than later, with the summer rapidly approaching. I think we're going to wrap that up today now, gentlemen, because I've had you for over 3 hours this afternoon, for which I'm hugely grateful. With time's ticking on, I'm sure you could all do with getting a bite to eat.
Kip.
and a bit of sleep, maybe. But
not for 6 years, actually. I'm okay for 6 years.
But before we do go, I just want to come back to you quickly for your final thoughts on today's game. That one behind me there, Newcastle West Ham. It's finished. Newcastle United 2, West Ham 2. Goals for Mikhail Antonio and Thomas Souček for the Hammers. 4 points in 5 days for West Ham. It's a massive boost to the club's battle against relegation. Pinky, I'll start with you for your final summary, please, buddy. What do you think today?
Yeah, I mean, before the start, we all say a point away from home is never bad. 4 points from 2 matches, very good return. Home to Chelsea, away to Newcastle. You take the results. You'd think the performance Wednesday night was excellent. Performance today, not as good. And yes, I've been very, very harsh on Pablo Fornals, and I'll probably get slaughtered for it. But I am so disappointed that we have chucked away a winning position. 2 points. Just do your job. And for me, that's kind of taken the gloss off it a little bit. But I'll take the 4 points in from 2 games all day long.
Pinky's happy with thank you, Pinky. No, Pinky's happy with the 4 points from 2 games this week, perhaps a little bit more than we could have expected. What's your summary of what we've seen today? Yeah,
I mean, we'd have taken 4 from 2 this time, last week with that coming up. And I'm encouraged by the improvement. It's silly little things that have cost us the 2 points today. And it is, that is slightly disappointing. But if you look at it in the wider scope of things, where we were 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said it earlier on, it's a measure of how we've improved over the last week or so, that we've got a point out of a game that we're now disappointed in not getting 3, as opposed to, we're disappointed at not getting any points out of a game where we deserve perhaps minus points for the way we played. So it's encouraging. Let's build on this. Let's do the good stuff that we've been doing. Keep doing that, and let's cut out the silly errors that have cost us 2 points today.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, No, for your contributions as always. Rio, finally to you today, my friend. It is, as Noam rightly says, we're sitting here disappointed that we've only got a point out of today's game, which can only be a good thing, I guess. Your views overall on what you've seen in the last 2 to 3 hours?
Yeah, we've made huge strides this week. We've got a foot firmly entrenched back in the Premiership. We're on the front foot for the first time in a long while. We've seen players grow. We've seen Souček develop into the kind of box-to-box goal scoring midfielder we needed. There's nothing really to take negatives out of. We're picking holes in minute errors, really. We've made great strides. We're in a much better position than we was this time last week. We've got to look upwards rather than downwards now. Let's just carry on what we've been doing for these last 5 days, the last 5 games of the season. Let's stamp our mark, cement our Premiership status, and move on from there.
Fantastic. Rio, thank you as always for your words and thoughts this afternoon. One more thing before we go, gentlemen. Let's have a quick show of hands. Who thinks West Ham are going to stay up this season? What a way to end the show. Thank you to everybody who joined us. It's been a really good week for West Ham. 4 points from 2 games. We really have put daylight between ourselves and the relegation zone. Join us on the Knees Up Mother Brown forum later if you want to talk more about today's game or throughout the week. There will be another mod pod coming soon. We haven't determined exactly when that's going to be because we usually record on Sunday evenings, but because of the fact that the game has been taking place today, we won't be recording tonight. So there will be details to follow on that one. I would just like to say, if you want to be notified whenever we go live or the mod pod is uploaded when we go live for the Eyes Up Mother Brown sessions this afternoon or any live chats, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will be told right away then when that happens. There is a button below me somewhere around here where you can do that. Probably somewhere around about Rio's left ear roll. If I've got my bearings right, round about there. There's a subscribe button. It just leaves me to say thank you to my panel once again for your contributions this afternoon. Rio, thanks, buddy.
No worries, mate. Pleasure.
Noam, thank you.
You're welcome. Cheers, mate.
And Pinky, as always, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
West Ham have picked up 4 points in the last 2 games. We're looking good for staying up now. Oh, that's a bit of a weight off our shoulders. Thank you to everybody who joined us, and we'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.
No.
Come on, you ones.